Hi, I'm Kaitlyn Pierce, 34. I work as a financial advisor here in the quiet suburbs outside Cleveland, Ohio. My days are spent turning other people's financial messes into clean spreadsheets and calm plans. I like things orderly, predictable, no surprises. That used to work for my life too until it didn't. I have a daughter, Willow. She's 9. Quiet, creative, always sketching little worlds full of colors no one else sees. She asks questions like why clouds don't have zippers or if trees remember the people who planted them. I used to think our family was stable enough to handle anything. A blended family. Sure, but adults can make it work. Kids adjust. Love fills the gaps. At least that's what I told myself for 3 years. Then came the layoffs, the tight budget, the move into my in-laws' old 2-story house with the American flag out front. I co-signed the mortgage because my credit was solid and theirs wasn't. Their house. My name on the loan. I thought it was temporary. I thought I still had control. But that Saturday morning, when I walked through the front door 2 days ahead of schedule, everything I thought I controlled started to crack. My little girl was alone in that big kitchen, handling a long list of chores they called discipline. The rest of them were miles away, laughing on water slides. I stood there for one long second, watching her small hands move over the floor. And in that moment I knew, this wasn't a misunderstanding. This was the line. If you've ever paid the bills, held the roof over everyone's head, and still felt like the outsider in your own home, stay with me. Because what happened next changed everything they thought they owned. The first few months felt manageable at first. After Ethan and I got married 3 years ago, we settled into a small apartment in downtown Cleveland. The place was tiny, but it felt like ours. I continued my work as a financial advisor, meeting with clients to organize their budgets and plan for retirement. Ethan held a position in logistics at a local distribution center. Willow, then 7, and Aurora, then 9, attended the same elementary school. They argued over toys and clothes but always reconciled before lights out. Life had a routine that worked for us. The trouble started when Ethan's company announced restructuring. He received his layoff notice after nearly a decade with them. Job hunting dragged on for months without success. Our savings dwindled fast. I picked up additional clients, extended my office hours, and handled paperwork late into the evenings. Even with the extra income, expenses kept us on edge every month. Marilyn and Walter, Ethan's parents, noticed the strain during one Sunday dinner. They lived in their longtime 2-story home in a peaceful suburb on the east side of Cleveland. The house had a wide front porch with an American flag hanging from the railing, hardwood floors that creaked with every step, and a backyard big enough for the girls to play. "Why not move in with us for a little while?" Marilyn suggested, her tone warm yet insistent. Family takes care of family in times like this. I felt uneasy right away. Marilyn had always used sweetheart when speaking to me, but it carried an undercurrent that made me feel like an outsider. Walter stayed mostly silent, offering occasional grunts of agreement. Still, the apartment rent was rising and my salary alone couldn't cover everything anymore. We accepted the offer and relocated. From the first week, the household had its established ways. Shoes belonged in the mudroom. No opening windows after 5 in the evening. Dinner was served promptly at 6 o'clock sharp. Aurora received the largest upstairs bedroom with her own bathroom space and a designated seat at the dining table. Willow was assigned the smaller room down the hall. After just a couple of weeks, Willow had to switch rooms because Aurora complained about needing more quiet for her sleep. I didn't push back. I wanted to avoid being seen as the difficult stepmother. During family meals, Marilyn directed most of her attention to Aurora. She asked about school projects, praised her drawings, and gave her extra helpings of food. Willow received brief questions and standard portions. Each child has her own needs. Marilyn would comment if I brought up the difference. Ethan usually responded with a sigh. That's how Mom has always been. It's not worth starting an argument. I continued to handle the mortgage payments. When the parents faced difficulty keeping up with their loan years earlier, I had co-signed to prevent foreclosure. My credit score made the approval possible. The documents listed my name as the primary borrower. It was their family home, but the financial obligation fell on me. I reminded myself this arrangement was short-term. Ethan would secure new employment soon, and we could return to independent living. In the evenings, I often sat at the small desk in the living room corner, reviewing client portfolios on my laptop. Willow would curl up nearby with her sketchbook, quietly filling pages with colorful scenes. Aurora spent time in the kitchen with Marilyn, talking excitedly about upcoming school events and weekend plans. I maintained a pleasant expression, repeating to myself that we were all adjusting, this phase would pass, and our blended family would grow stronger for it. As weeks turned into months, small patterns emerged in daily interactions. Marilyn organized laundry and assigned chores, giving Aurora lighter tasks while Willow handled more. I observed without immediate comment, focusing instead on my work deadlines and hoping for Ethan's job breakthrough. The girls attended after-school activities together, but Aurora's dance class received more encouragement from the grandparents. Willow's art club participation went mostly unnoticed at home. I told myself patience was key. We had made the move to stabilize our situation, and I was determined to make it succeed for Willow's sake. One particular evening after work, Willow showed me a drawing she had made of a house with a big rainbow roof. I told her it was beautiful and encouraged her to share it at dinner. She shook her head and put it back in her folder. At the table that night, Marilyn spent the entire meal asking Aurora about her dance recital plans while Willow ate in silence. When Willow tried to mention her art club, the topic quickly shifted to the weather. Ethan caught my eye but quickly turned his attention to the television. Another afternoon, Marilyn baked a batch of cookies for Aurora to take to school for a class party. When Willow asked if she could have one, Marilyn replied that they were for the event and there were no extras to avoid extra snacking. I mentioned it to Ethan later that night in our room. He sighed and said his mom was just trying to keep things healthy and that Willow should learn to follow the house rules. I decided not to press the issue and instead focused on preparing the next mortgage payment that was due. The house itself seemed to have its own set of expectations. Every choice I made about meals or how to organize the pantry drew a comment from Marilyn. In this house, we do it this way. Sweetheart, she would say with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. I always smiled back and made the adjustment. My main priority remained keeping the peace while ensuring the mortgage was paid on time each month. Those quiet moments with Willow in the evenings, when she would lean against me while I worked, gave me the strength to continue. I believed that with hard work and patience, this temporary setup would eventually lead to better days for all of us. Then the little things started adding up. Marilyn began organizing family activities around Aurora's interests. She signed Aurora up for weekend dance classes at the local community center and made sure to attend every practice session. Willow's art club met on the same afternoons, but Marilyn never offered to drive her or asked about the projects. When Willow brought home a colorful collage she had made in class, Marilyn glanced at it briefly and said, "That's nice, but we don't need more paper cluttering the fridge." Aurora's latest dance photo went up on the refrigerator door the very next day. At dinner, the conversation always circled back to Aurora. Marilyn would ask detailed questions about her friends, her teachers, her upcoming recital. Willow tried to join in once or twice with stories from her day. Marilyn would nod politely, then turn right back to Aurora with another question. Ethan usually stayed quiet, focusing on his plate or checking his phone for job alerts. I noticed Willow's shoulders drop a little lower each time. Her words went unanswered. One Saturday morning, Marilyn announced she was taking Aurora shopping for new dance shoes and a special outfit for the recital. They left early and returned with bags full of new clothes, accessories, and even a small treat from the mall food court. Willow had stayed home to finish a school project. When they walked in, Aurora showed off her purchases excitedly. Marilyn smiled and said, "We had to get the right fit, nothing but the best for our little dancer." Willow looked up from her sketchbook and asked quietly if there was anything left over for her. Marilyn replied that the trip was specifically for Aurora's needs, and that Willow already had plenty of clothes. That evening, Willow stopped showing me her drawings right away. She would finish one, fold it carefully, and slip it into her backpack instead of placing it on the kitchen table like she used to. I asked her why she wasn't putting them up anymore. She shrugged and said, "The house already has enough stuff on the walls." Her voice was flat, almost rehearsed. The candy rule came next. Marilyn decided the girls needed to cut back on sugar to stay healthy. Aurora could still have occasional treats after her dance practices, because she burns it off with all that movement. Willow's requests for a piece of chocolate or a cookie after dinner were met with gentle reminders that some children get too hyper with sweets. One afternoon, I found Willow staring longingly at the cookie jar on the counter. When she reached for one, Marilyn appeared and said, "Those are for after Aurora's recital practice tomorrow. We don't want to spoil dinner." Willow pulled her hand back without a word. Her stomachache started around the same time. She would wake up complaining of a tummy ache right before school. The school nurse called me twice in 1 month to pick her up early. Each time, the doctor found nothing physically wrong. At home, she became quieter during meals, picking at her food. I sat with her one night after everyone else had gone to bed. She finally admitted she felt like she was always in the way. "I try to be good," she whispered. "But maybe I'm just not very good at it." I spoke to Ethan about it the next evening while we were in our room. He rubbed his temples and said his mom was just old-fashioned about discipline, and that Aurora needed more structure because she had been through the divorce. When I pointed out that Willow was withdrawing more every week, he sighed and said, "Mom means well. She just connects differently with the girls. Don't make it a bigger deal than it is." The email from Willow's teacher arrived a few days later. It was polite but concerned. Willow had become noticeably withdrawn in class. She rarely raised her hand, avoided group activities, and seemed tired most days. The teacher suggested we talk about possible stressors at home. I read the message twice, then closed my laptop and stared at the wall for a long time. That weekend, Marilyn planned a small celebration for Aurora's good grades report card. She baked a cake, hung balloons in the living room, and invited a couple of Aurora's friends over. Willow sat in the corner of the couch, watching quietly. When the cake was cut, Marilyn handed slices to the guests first, then to Aurora, and finally offered Willow a small piece if she had finished her chores. Willow took it without looking up. Later that night, I held Willow while she colored in her sketchbook. She didn't say much, but her hand moved slower than usual across the page. I kissed the top of her head and told her she was doing great. She nodded, but the spark in her eyes that used to light up when she talked about her drawings had dimmed. I told myself we just needed a little more time. Ethan would find work. The mortgage would stay current. The house rules would ease up once things settled. But deep down, a quiet worry was growing. Every small slight felt like another drop wearing away at something fragile. I kept paying the bills, kept smiling through the comments, kept hoping the balance would shift back in our favor. I didn't want to believe that the people sharing our roof could make my daughter feel so small in her own home. I wrapped up my meetings in Chicago 2 days early. The client signed the final agreement on Thursday afternoon instead of Saturday. I caught an earlier flight back to Cleveland, thinking I would surprise everyone with takeout from our favorite pizza place and a quiet evening together. The house looked normal from the outside, flag still hanging straight, porch light on, no cars missing from the driveway except mine. I turned the key quietly, expecting to hear voices or the TV. The place was too still. That heavy quiet that makes your stomach tighten before you even know why. I set my bag down in the entryway and walked toward the kitchen. Willow was there alone on her knees with a damp rag in her hands. She was wiping down the baseboards along the cabinets, then moving to the tile grout lines. The counters were spotless, the sink empty, the floorboards gleaming in patches where she had already finished. She wore one of Ethan's old t-shirts that hung past her knees like a dress. No one else was in sight. I stopped in the doorway. "Willow, honey, where's everyone?" She looked up, not startled, just calm. Too calm for a 9-year-old doing deep cleaning on a Saturday morning. "They went to the water park." "I'm grounded." The words landed flat. No drama in her voice. Like it was just another fact of the day. I knelt beside her. "Grounded for what?" She shrugged one shoulder and kept wiping in slow circles. "I left my markers on the table yesterday. Grandma said it made the house messy, so I have to clean everything before they get back." "How long have you been doing this?" "Since after breakfast." They left around 9. It was past 11 now. She had been alone in the house for over 2 hours, scrubbing floors and counters while the rest of them drove to the big indoor water park 30 minutes away. The one Aurora had been talking about for weeks. The one Marilyn had promised as a reward for her good report card. I took the rag gently from her hand. Her fingers were wrinkled and cold from the soapy water. "You don't have to finish this right now." She looked at the floor like she was checking for missed spots. "If I don't, Grandma will be mad when they get home." I helped her stand up. Her knees had little red marks from pressing against the hard tile. We walked to the living room and sat on the couch. She curled into my side without saying anything else. I stroked her hair and felt her breathing slow down, like she had been holding it tight the whole time. After a few minutes she spoke softly. They said I could go next time if I behave better. But Aurora always gets to go first because she's, their real one. The phrase hit like a door slamming. I had heard variations of it before, little comments here and there, but never so plain from her mouth. I held her closer. You are real. You are mine. And you don't have to earn a trip to a water park by scrubbing someone else's kitchen. She nodded against my shoulder, but I could feel the tension still in her small frame. We sat like that until I heard the garage door open around 4. Voices spilled in laughter, wet shoes squeaking on the mat, bags rustling. Aurora came running through first, hair still damp, towel around her neck, talking fast about the biggest slide. Marilyn followed, carrying a bag of souvenirs. Ethan trailed behind with Walter, both carrying more bags. Marilyn saw us on the couch and smiled brightly. You're back early. We had such a wonderful time. Aurora loved the wave pool. I didn't smile back. I kept my arm around Willow. I can see that. Ethan looked between us. Everything okay? I met his eyes. No. Not really. Marilyn tilted her head. What's wrong, sweetheart? I stood up slowly, keeping Willow close. She was here alone all day, cleaning the kitchen and living room, while you were all at the water park. Marilyn waved a hand. It was just a little discipline. She needed to learn about responsibility. We weren't gone that long, and she knows the rules. 2 days early for my trip, I said evenly. And I find my 9-year-old unsupervised, doing adult-level chores as punishment. That's not discipline. That's leaving a child alone for hours. Ethan stepped forward. Mom was just trying to teach her. I cut him off. Don't. The room went quiet. Aurora looked confused. Walter stared at the floor. I turned to Willow. Go pack your backpack with your favorite things and your sketchbook. We're going to get some air. She nodded and went upstairs without argument. Marilyn crossed her arms. You're overreacting. She's fine. I looked straight at her. She's not fine. And she's not staying here another night. Ethan reached for my arm. Kaitlyn, come on. Let's talk about this. I stepped back. We're done talking. I followed Willow upstairs, helped her gather her clothes, her markers, her stuffed bear, and the folder of drawings she kept hidden in her drawer. We walked past them in the hallway. Marilyn's tight smile, Ethan's stunned face, Aurora clutching her new towel like a shield, and out the front door. I didn't slam it. I didn't yell. I just closed it behind us. I didn't yell. I just packed what mattered. We left the house with 2 small suitcases, one for Willow and one for me. I grabbed our birth certificates, social security cards, my work laptop, Willow's school folder, and the folder of drawings she kept hidden. Everything else could wait. We walked out the front door past the flag still waving in the breeze, got into my car, and drove to the nearest motel off the interstate. It was a basic place with clean sheets and a small indoor pool that Willow could see from the window. I checked us in for 2 nights. The clerk asked if we needed a crib. I said no, just the double bed. Upstairs, I set the suitcases down and ordered pizza with extra cheese, Willow's favorite. When it arrived, she ate 3 slices without pausing, dipping the crust in ranch like nothing had happened that day. I turned on the TV to a cartoon channel. She laughed at the silly parts, the sound small but real. After dinner we sat on the bed. I propped pillows behind us and pulled her close. She leaned her head on my shoulder and stayed quiet for a long time. Then she started talking in pieces. How Grandma sometimes called her the extra one when she thought no one was listening. How Aurora got the last slice of birthday cake every time because she earned it with her good behavior. How one evening she sat in her room while downstairs they sang happy birthday to Aurora and no one called her down. She didn't cry the whole time, just spoke like she was reciting facts she had memorized. When she finished, she looked up at me. Am I really going back? Never, I said. You're safe now. We're not going back to that house. That's when the tears came. Not quiet ones. Big, heaving sobs that shook her whole body. She buried her face in my shirt and cried until her breathing hiccuped and her cheeks were streaked. I held her tight, rocking gently, whispering over and over that she was good. She was loved. None of it was her fault. She cried until she couldn't anymore, then fell asleep against me with her thumb near her mouth like she used to when she was little. I stayed awake, Around midnight, I opened my laptop quietly so the light wouldn't wake her. I logged into the mortgage account. The auto payment was scheduled for the 1st of next month. I turned it off with one click. No drama. No second thoughts. Just done. The next morning, Willow woke up hungry. We ate breakfast at the motel, continental waffles with too much syrup, orange juice, coffee for me. She colored on the paper placemat while I made calls. First to Elena Vargas, my friend from college who practiced family law. I explained the situation in short sentences. Child left unsupervised for hours, emotional patterns at home, mortgage in my name. Elena listened without interrupting, then said she would pull the loan documents and draft a letter to stop any automatic drafts permanently. She also suggested filing a report with Child Protective Services immediately, not as an accusation, but out of genuine concern for Willow's safety and well-being. I thanked her and hung up. Then I called the non-emergency police line. The officer who answered took my information calmly. I described the facts. 9-year-old left alone from 9 in the morning until at least 4 in the afternoon, assigned extensive household chores as discipline, no adult present. He noted it as a welfare check concern and said a caseworker would follow up. I gave the address and my contact number. We spent the day at the motel. Willow swam in the shallow end of the pool while I sat on a lounge chair with my phone. She floated on her back and told me the water felt like flying. I smiled and told her we could find a place with a real pool soon. In the afternoon, we drove to a nearby store and bought new markers, a sketch pad, and a stuffed cat she named Whiskers. Back at the room, she drew a picture of the two of us in a house with a rainbow door. She wrote underneath in careful letters, "Our house. No more chores to earn love." That night my phone started buzzing. Ethan first texts asking where we were, saying we needed to talk. Then voicemails from Marilyn. "This is ridiculous. Come home. We can discuss it like adults." I didn't answer. I forwarded everything to Elena and turned the ringer off. The second night Willow slept soundly with Whiskers tucked under her arm. I stared at the ceiling and felt something settle inside me, not anger, not sadness, just clarity. I had paid for that roof over their heads for years. I had smiled through the comments. I had told myself it was temporary. But seeing Willow on her knees alone in that kitchen had ended the pretending. Monday morning we checked out of the motel. I found a short-term rental apartment online, 2 bedrooms, small balcony, in a quiet part of town. We moved in that afternoon with the few things we had brought. Willow chose the room with the window facing the trees. She put her drawings on the wall right away. I logged back into the mortgage account one more time. The next payment was due in 10 days. I let it sit unpaid. The consequences would come soon enough. At first, they tried the "let's fix this" approach. The text from Ethan started the morning after we moved into the apartment. Short messages at first. "Where are you staying? We need to talk about this. The girls miss each other." I read them, forwarded copies to Elena, and didn't reply. By afternoon, the calls began. I let them go to voicemail. In one he sounded tired. "Mom didn't mean it that way. Come home so we can work it out." Marilyn tried next. She called from a number I didn't recognize, probably her sister's phone. Her message was longer, voice pitched higher than usual. "Kaitlyn, this is unnecessary. Willow is part of our family. We were just teaching her responsibility. Bring her back and we'll all sit down like adults." I saved it for the file. Elena was building and blocked the number. A few days later, a package appeared at the apartment door, no note, just a gift bag. Inside was a new set of markers for Willow and a box of chocolates. The tag on the markers read, "For Willow, love, Grandma Marilyn." I showed Willow. She looked at them for a long moment, then handed them back. "Can we give these away?" We dropped them in the building's donation bin that evening. Ethan showed up at Willow's school the following week. He waited outside the pickup line with a small stuffed horse, her favorite animal from when she was 6. When she saw him, she froze. He knelt down, held out the toy and said, "Hey kiddo, I miss you. Remember the lake trip? You laughed the whole time on the boat." Willow stepped back, clutching her backpack straps. "You were standing right there when they laughed at me for spilling juice on the tablecloth." Her voice was steady, small but clear. Ethan's face went pale. He tried to say something else, but she turned and walked straight to me in the car without looking back. That night, I filed for a temporary protection order through Elena. The paperwork cited repeated attempts to contact Willow outside of supervised settings and the documented incident of unsupervised time. The judge granted it the next business day, no contact allowed without my permission or a court mediator present. Ethan received the notice by certified mail. His next text was shorter. This is going too far. Marilyn didn't stop. She left voicemails from different numbers, each one a little angrier. You're punishing the whole family over one afternoon. Aurora cries every night asking where Willow went. We raised that girl like our own and this is how you repay us. I saved everyone. Elena advised keeping records of all communication tone, frequency, content. It would matter if things escalated. Ethan tried one more time in person. He waited outside the apartment building one evening, flowers in hand, looking like he hadn't slept in days. When I opened the door just enough to speak, he started. I didn't know how bad it was getting. Mom went too far, but I was stuck in the middle. I love you both. We can fix this. I kept my voice level. You knew enough. You saw her sitting in corners at parties. You heard the comments. You chose not to step in. He looked down at the flowers. I was trying to keep peace. Peace for who? I asked. He had no answer. I closed the door quietly. After that, the tone shifted. Marilyn's messages turned sharp. You're destroying everything we built. Ethan's texts accused me of using the mortgage as leverage. You can't just stop paying and ruin their lives. I didn't respond. The mortgage payment due date had passed. The first late notice arrived at the old house address. Marilyn called screaming about how I was trying to get them evicted. Elena confirmed the account was in my name only. I had every legal right to withhold payment if I chose. Willow started seeing a school counselor twice a week. The counselor emailed me progress notes. Willow was opening up more in sessions, drawing pictures of safe places, talking about feeling small before but bigger now. At home, she hung her drawings on every wall of her new room. She named the stuffed cat Whiskers and carried him everywhere. One evening she asked if we could get a real cat someday. I said yes, we'd look at shelters when we were ready. The protection order held. Ethan stopped showing up at school. Marilyn's calls slowed to once a week, then stopped. The silence felt louder than the yelling. I kept working more clients, steady income. Willow laughed easier. She started singing little songs again while coloring, the same ones she used to hum at breakfast before we moved in with them. I didn't miss the big house or the flag or the creaky floors. I missed nothing about walking on eggshells in my own life. The official notices started arriving. The first foreclosure warning letter came to the old house address about 10 days after the missed payment. Marilyn called me from Ethan's phone, her voice sharp and shaking. You're really doing this? You're going to let the bank take our home? I told her calmly that the loan was in my name, the payments had stopped because I no longer lived there, and any further discussion should go through my attorney. She hung up mid-sentence. Elena had already prepared the paperwork. She sent a formal letter to the lender explaining the change in circumstances. Primary borrower no longer residing at the property. Separation in progress. Intent to cease payments. The bank responded with the standard delinquency notice 30 days to cure or face acceleration. Marilyn forwarded me a photo of it with a single line. This is on you. Child Protective Services contacted me the following week. An investigator named Miss Ramirez scheduled a home visit to the apartment. She arrived on a Tuesday afternoon, notebook in hand, and spoke with Willow first in her room while I waited in the living room. When she came out, she said Willow had been open and consistent in her account, left unsupervised for extended periods, assigned tasks that felt like punishment, made to feel like she didn't fully belong. Miss Ramirez noted the drawings on the walls, whiskers on the bed, and the way Willow spoke about the new place. It's quiet here. I can draw without anyone saying it's messy. The investigator then visited the old house. Marilyn answered the door dressed neatly, offering coffee like it was a social call. Ethan was there too, sitting on the couch with Aurora beside him. Miss Ramirez asked direct questions. Who was responsible for supervising Willow that Saturday? How long was she alone? Had similar incidents occurred before? Ethan answered first, voice low. My mom was watching her. We weren't far. When pressed on who specifically left her unsupervised, he went quiet. Marilyn jumped in. It was just chores to teach responsibility. She knows the house rules. Miss Ramirez asked Ethan again. Were you aware she was left alone for several hours? He looked at the floor and said nothing. The report came back a few weeks later. CPS opened a case file on the household due to concerns about supervision and emotional environment. They scheduled follow-up visits and required Ethan to attend parenting classes. Aurora's situation was also reviewed since her mother was out of state. Any ongoing instability could affect custody arrangements. Marilyn received a formal letter outlining expectations. No unsupervised contact with Willow, cooperation with visits, no further attempts to influence her through gifts or school appearances. Ethan's text slowed to once every few days. One read, "If you drop the CPS thing, I'll make sure Mom backs off." I forwarded it to Elena without replying. The protection order remained in place. The second mortgage notice arrived 60 days delinquent. The bank scheduled a pre-foreclosure mediation session. Marilyn and Walter attended. I did not. Elena represented my position remotely. The loan was current until I withdrew support, and I had no obligation to continue payments for a property I no longer occupied. The mediator noted the cosigner status and advised the family to seek their own legal counsel for options like loan modification or short sale. Marilyn left a voicemail afterward. "You're heartless. This house has been in the family for decades." I saved it and deleted the rest. Ethan called once more late at night. His voice cracked. "Aurora keeps asking why Willow isn't coming back. Mom is falling apart. I lost my unemployment extension because of the stress. Can't we just talk?" I listened until he finished. Then I said, "You had years to talk. To step in. To make sure my daughter wasn't made to feel like an outsider in her own home. You didn't. This is the result." He started to argue, but I ended the call. Willow's counselor sent a positive update. She was engaging more with classmates, sharing her art during group time, sleeping better. At home, she asked to plant seeds on the balcony, little bean plants in pots. We watered them every morning. She named them after colors: red bean, blue bean, rainbow bean. Watching them sprout felt like proof that things could grow again. The foreclosure clock kept ticking. 90 days delinquent brought the acceleration notice: full balance due or legal action. Marilyn's last voicemail was quieter, almost defeated. "We're losing everything." I didn't call back. I focused on work, new clients, a promotion discussion on the horizon. Willow drew pictures of our balcony garden and taped them next to her window. The apartment felt smaller every day, but it felt like ours. It's been almost a year now. The sheriff's sale happened quietly in late fall. I didn't go to the auction. Elena sent me the listing link from the county website. One afternoon, a simple photo of the old two-story house with the wide porch, the American flag still hanging from the railing, and a bright red banner across the top. Foreclosed, sold as is. The price was lower than what I had paid in mortgage contributions over the years. Marilyn and Walter had no way to redeem it. They moved out the week before closing, packing into a small trailer park on the far edge of the county. Ethan went with them. He found steady work at a warehouse loading docks, long shifts, decent pay, but nothing like his old logistics job. Aurora still lives with them. CPS closed their case after 6 months of monitoring, but the family court kept a close watch on her custody file. Marilyn called one last time from an unknown number right after the sale finalized. Her voice was thin, almost broken. "We lost the house because of you. Everything we built. How do you sleep at night?" I didn't answer. I let the voicemail play out, saved it for the records, and blocked the number. There was nothing left to say. I received a small promotion at work 2 months later. More responsibility, better pay, the option to work mostly remote. It gave us breathing room. We used part of the raise to sign a longer lease on the apartment, then started looking at small houses in a nearby suburb with good schools and quiet streets. Willow turned 10 in the spring. We celebrated with a backyard picnic, just us, a homemade cake with rainbow frosting, and Whiskers watching from the balcony railing. She blew out the candles and wished for a real garden and a cat that stays forever. We adopted a gray tabby named Storm the next weekend. He sleeps at the foot of her bed every night. Willow's drawings now cover an entire wall in her room. Bright houses with open doors, families of 3 walking under rainbows, bean plants growing taller than the roof. She talks more in class, shares her art without hesitation, and even joined the school's after-school art club again. The counselor closed her file last month with a note: significant improvement in self-esteem and social engagement. No further concerns. When I read it, I sat on the balcony with my coffee and let the words sink in. She wasn't just surviving anymore. She was thriving. Ethan tried reaching out once more through a mutual friend, asking if we could meet for coffee, saying he had changed, that he understood now. I thanked the friend for passing the message and said no. Some doors close for good, when the people behind them refuse to protect what matters most. Aurora sent Willow a birthday card through the school, simple, no return address. Willow read it, smiled a little, then put it in her memory box with the other things from before. She didn't ask to reply. I still handle finances for a living, turning chaos into order for clients who trust me with their futures. But my own future looks different now. No more walking on eggshells. No more paying for a roof that sheltered cruelty. No more hoping someone else would finally see my daughter the way I do. Sometimes I think about that Saturday morning, the quiet kitchen, Willow's small hands on the rag, the way she looked up and said, "I'm grounded," like it was normal. That moment didn't just crack the illusion, it shattered it completely. And instead of trying to glue the pieces back together, I walked away with the only thing that truly mattered. Protecting her wasn't revenge. It was the bare minimum any mother owes her child. If someone makes your daughter feel like she has to earn love by scrubbing floors, by staying silent, by shrinking herself to fit into someone else's idea of family, don't wait for them to change. Don't wait for apologies that may never come. Don't wait for the system to force fairness. Take the control you already have. Use it. Walk out the door. Stop paying for the mistakes of people who never valued what you brought to the table. Because your peace, her smile, the way she laughs again when she draws, that's worth more than any house, any flag, any promise of family that only includes you when it's convenient. We're okay now. More than okay. We're free. And that's enough.